guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some new products from the Rabbit Hole Designs. They have some new paper packs out, and the stamp set I'm going to be using today is called Adventure Awaits. This is their, what is it, Emferna? I never say it right. Somebody tell me how to pronounce it. They're these cute little pre-colored little bunnies that are adorable. And this video is actually part of a blog hop. My day was on Monday, and they're doing a 3-day hop, so today is the last day. They're giving away some gift vouchers, and then they're through the 28th. Anybody who spends $50 will get a free pack of those cute little bunnies, as long as supplies last. So there's that. It'll all be linked below if you're watching on YouTube. So here I just picked out a couple of these pattern papers. If you are not new here, then you know I don't typically use a lot of pattern paper, but I thought that it would be kind of fun to make a scene with it just based on the colors I picked. I'm going to be using the mirror technique. It's been a hot minute since I've used this, but I wanted to, since I wanted to create a scene, I just wanted them to be facing each other so it would kind of make sense. I'm just going to use the packaging that came with it. I'm going to pull the acetate right off the back of my stamps. I'm going to put those down in my Misty. I put the white cardstock behind it to make it nice and easy for me. So here I've lined up my stamp. I'm just going to use Hero Arts Intense Black ink because I am going to be coloring this with alcohol markers. For me, that's Copic. They're my usual go-to, though I do have a couple of other brands that I like. I'm going to stamp this, ink it up, and then I'm going to stamp it straight down onto the acetate. You do kind of have to work a little bit quickly in order for this to work correctly. I'm going to remove my magnets, pull up my acetate, flip it over, and then stamp it down on the white cardstock. So I'm just going to hold it in place with my left hand and push with my right hand. You don't want to slide this around. It is slippery, but it will give you a very light impression. Now, you all know I love my big, bold black outlines, but also I like when people can see my images on my card. So I'm going to go in with a alcohol-safe marker, and then I'm just going to trace the lines that are already there. I know that the tracing isn't always easy for everybody, but just take your time. Really, I didn't have any issues, and I could have picked either image to flip. I chose this one because I thought it would be easier to trace since it has the fairly straight lines of the suitcase. So just know, like, when you're doing this, if you're making a scene and you have two stamps that face the same direction, you can choose to flip one of them so that they face each other and make more sense in a scene. I'm just gonna, like I said, go through and outline this, just taking my time, going slowly. I guess that's the best advice I could give you, is don't rush it, but be confident with your lines. Because if you're not confident with your lines, you're going to get very wiggly or uneven lines. So, like, once you commit to it, commit to it. And then also, I seem to have better luck when I draw, like, diagonally versus directly up and down or horizontal. So I turn my paper to however is comfortable for me to get a straight line. This didn't take very long to outline the image, maybe 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp the other image, which is the bunny with the camera. I think I said the title of this stamp set, it's called Adventure Awaits, not positive, but just in case, that's what it's called. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp this one down. Now, you'll be able to see the line difference in the one that I outlined and the one that I stamped. The one that I stamp is obviously much finer lines, but I outline all of my images anyway, so for me this is no big deal, and I'm just going to go in and do the same exact thing. Normally I outline them after I color them, but since I already had the pen out and was here, I just went ahead and outlined it now, and then you'll see they're the same width, and so they'll make sense together in a card. I really wish I knew what I did with this card. Like, after I take pictures of them, then I move them. But I don't remember where I moved this one to. Well, nonetheless, here we are. So just doing the same thing, just outlining those, and then I'm going to Copic color them. earlier I said I don't use a lot of pattern paper, and I typically don't. It's just because I don't do a lot of multiple layer cards. Um, it's just not something that I use a ton of. Uh, I did consider paper piecing this, which I think would have been really pretty, and that's just where you stamped on the images on different patterns and then trim those out, and glue them to your image so that they all kind of have their own pattern, which I think is really pretty. And then even after I committed to putting it in the background, I considered paper piecing the suitcase portion of it, but ultimately decided that I just wanted it to all be colored. So here I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to go horizontal or up and down. I trimmed my blue polka dot piece to the exact size of an A2 size card, so 4.25 by 5.5. And this is just going to fit my full card size. And then the green plaid portion, I started with I think 2.5. And then when I put that down, I realized that it was too wide. It was too much of a bottom. So I just went back to my paper trimmer and trimmed off what else I needed to do. I don't prefer a busier background. That's just me. So I knew I was going to add some distress inking onto my pattern paper to kind of mute the patterns that were in the background. Again, this is just a personal preference. It kind of darkens up the edges and brings the center to like the focal point. I'm not going to add a whole ton of it. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. So I started with speckled egg on the blue portion, just all around the edges. And then I will also add some salty ocean, and then go back over it with the speckled egg, just because I always do mine twice. I feel like it gives me a better blend. So we have not seen each other in a while, because, as I told you guys before, my dad had hip replacement surgery last Monday. Everything went really well. They didn't have any issues. But then that evening, which I guess is a side effect of the medication, he couldn't go to the bathroom. So they had to catheterize him. So they ended up keeping him overnight. And then the next day during his therapy, he has occupational therapy and then physical therapy. He had a little bit of shortness of breath. So they ended up keeping him 2 nights, and then he came home on Wednesday. So since he's been home, he is getting around fairly well. I mean, he's very slow and he has to use a walker, but that's to be expected. But, glad to be home. And then, basically we've just been really going kind of back and forth to help mom with Graham. Me and my middle sister both took off last week to be there and do whatever needed to be done. And then I worked the weekend, which thankfully my sisters covered for me. And then also last week was Eric's birthday. So Dad had surgery on Monday. Eric's birthday was on Thursday. So they kind of took over. I did Thursday during the day. They took over Thursday evening for me so we could have, I could make him dinner. And then, because it's COVID, it's not like we're going anywhere, right? And then Friday night, his family very wonderfully came out to visit us. And then I worked the weekend. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. It's, I took off the rest of this week. And then through the weekend, I am off to help out my mama. But I mean, pretty much like the other day, we just sat down and, did the schedule for who needs to be there when, because really, I mean, not that it's not helping with Dad because he can't get around real well. So like if he needs something, certainly you're there to grab it. But really it's helping with Graham because, my mom can't lift her. No, none of us can lift her themselves. Like it's a 2-man job. Back to the card super quick. So I knew I was going to be using a bunch of, muted colors, like the grays between the bunnies and all the metal accents. So that's part of the reason why I was okay with going with so much color in the background is I knew my images weren't going to have very much color. So I'm just going with first the cool grays, and then I decided to do the bunnies in warm grays. So anyway, so my sisters and I basically have the schedule worked out where everybody, is everybody's doing a little so nobody does a lot kind of thing. And like Eric's been over there a ton. He did yesterday morning and the Monday morning and Tuesday morning for me because I was working. And so when I come home from work at 7, Graham typically doesn't get up until like 10-ish. So I'm already sleeping. I've been sleeping for, 3 hours. So he would go over and do it, help mom. Plus, he's one of the only ones, besides my middle sister, Kimberly, who can help mom get her on the potty chair. So that's just our situation. I've noticed recently, and I think it's because my mom feels like she's putting people out by having them come over and help with Graham. It's like she doesn't even pay attention to the fact that, like, she's also my grandmother, just saying. But so she's been like calling people off, which drives me insane. So she'll call my sisters and say, I don't need you, don't come. Or she'll call Eric, I don't need you, don't come. But it's because she's doing it herself. And while my mother, thankfully, is in very good health, like, she is no spring chicken. And she doesn't need to be changing her by herself because there's a lot of rolling and, lifting her up and getting, it's a thing, and she doesn't need to be doing it alone. So she sent me a message this morning that said, I'll call you when I need you. Well, I know what that means. So I told her, I said, well, I'll come closer to 10 o'clock. This was at like 9:30. And she was like 10:30, 10:45-ish. So that is like, I'm doing my voiceover now because then I'm going to go down there to help. Because even though she says, I'll call you when I need you, she won't. So shout out to all of you out there who have super stubborn mothers like mine. While my mom is wonderful, she is wonderful, she drives me insane because she just thinks that she's Wonder Woman and she can do it all herself instead of just accepting the help that is given to her. Now, I will say that I have inherited this trait from her, and it is very difficult for me to ask other people for help, not because I think that they're not capable, but it's really just because I don't want to put them out. So if I'm capable of doing it myself, I'm just going to do it myself. And but I also know how exhausting that is, so I refuse to listen to her, pretty much is what it comes down to, which is really, I mean, is that any different than the whole rest of my life that she's had to fight and argue with me? Probably not. And those are the things that you have to deal with when you're a mom. Sorry, mom. My whole life, my mom was like, I want to raise you to be, a strong, independent woman, which she did successfully, but then sometimes it comes back to bite her, because here I am. But so I will go down and help her with that. And then, her birthday was yesterday. Mom's birthday was yesterday. And, so Nathan asked if we could go down there, but I had not seen him. We had quite a bit of homework to get done, so I told him that we would go today since I already knew I was going down for the morning and evening, like to change Graham morning and evening. And then my oldest sister is going to take the late night change because I have Peanut and he'll already be asleep, so I can't leave. So we've really managed to work it out, between the four of us mostly. Eric's been a total rock star. I mean, just going down there a ton, taking dad to doctor's appointments. My sister's boyfriend, Jerry's, taking him to doctor's appointments because he can't drive. And somebody's got to be at home with Graham. It's a whole thing. Plus with COVID, like, my mom can't go in. Nobody can go in, so you just got to wait in the parking lot. Here, I originally colored the straps with the warm gray. I just thought I would switch it up, but then I didn't like it. So I went back over it with the cool gray, and now it's somewhere in the middle. I am going to fussy cut these out because, again, scene card, I couldn't use the dies because I mirror image flipped that one, so the die won't work. But if you were, using these normally, you certainly could use the coordinating dies instead of having to fussy cut them out. So it's just been crazy. We didn't really do anything for Mom's birthday yesterday. We are doing her birthday celebration this weekend when everybody is off of work, which means I'll be making the coconut cake again. Hopefully, I'll have a much easier time finding it than the last time. Um, Once these are trimmed out, I'm going to go in with a Memento Tuxedo black marker. You want to use a water-based marker for this, not an alcohol-based marker, because it'll bleed into your image if you don't. And I'm just going to color the edges black. It just kind of gets rid of any wonky cutting edges and gives it just a more finished look. So just going through and doing those. I did inadvertently get some black on part of the suitcase, which I did have to fix. I don't even think I did that on camera because I was just like, oh, look at this boo-boo. I'll fix it right quick. But I just went over it a couple of times with the pink, and by the time it was dry, you couldn't really see it. Plus, I added a pattern to the suitcase eventually with my white gel pen, which also distracted away from the part of maybe where it was a little bit discolored. Here, I'm trying to get my sentiment placement. I didn't really do a whole lot as far as accenting the sentiment. And in hindsight, maybe I wish I would have put some sequins or some Nuvo drops or something like that. It looks a little bit plain to me, but it is what it is, and I've accepted it. So I'm just going to start gluing everything together. My glue was clogged. That is one of the side effects of the Tombow Mono multi-glue, because it is repositionable. Sometimes it gets sticky in the lid, but then I just use either a pokey tool or like the needle that I keep for my glossy accents to just pull it out. So once that's down, I decided to pop up my little guys on foam, but I also wanted to ground them. You know, I'm a huge fan of doing that. So I just drew a pencil line underneath them so I would know where to add the shading. And because I'm drawing it right up underneath the image, you're not going to be able to see it. Once you put the alcohol markers over the pencil, you will not be able to erase it. So just be aware of where you're putting your lines. But because I was right up against it and I knew I was going to pop my images up on foam, I knew you weren't going to be able to see it. So I just went in with some yellow greens because that was kind of the vibe I had going on the bottom with the, what did I use? Shabby shutters. I think I used shabby. Yep, I did, because it's been a hot minute and I had to dig it out. Because spring is coming, y'all. It is coming. There are berries on the trees. I'm excited about it. We're just now thawing out from the deep freeze that we were in. It was legit 0 degrees. And I mean, it was like in the 7-8s for days with highs of like, 13 degrees, 19 degrees. It's not been fun. But just this week, it's kind of broke. The sun is out right now. It's supposed to be a high of 50 today. I weep for the backyard flooding that's going to happen when all the snow melts, but I am so excited for sunshine and warmer weather. I mean, 50 is balmy compared to 7, guys. So once these are done, I'm just going to go ahead and cut my little foam pieces to put on the back so that they would be popped up. Again, just like a fun little element to add some dimension to the card. And then I'll just go in and, pick off all my little pieces, parts. Some of them were really kind of tiny, especially like that one behind his arm. And then on the other bunny, it was behind his legs, I think, were the really tiny ones. And then I'm just going to put them in place right over those little shadows I've created. My original thought process was that it would look more like an outdoor scene with like green grass and blue sky. But what it ends up really looking like is like a scene in somebody's living room that has green plaid carpet and blue polka dot wallpaper. But whatever, it's cute. So I told you before about the pattern that I was going to draw. I'm just doing like pinstripes, just single stripe lines on the suitcase. And then I'm going to add glitter as I normally do. I really think these stamps are super cute. This is a new illustrator for them, but I did go in to their shop the other day and do a little bit of looking around and purchased some other ones that I thought were super cute. So hopefully, one day I'll be able to play with the stamps that I buy. And you'll be able to see a few more of these from them. If you have not checked out their store before, I would encourage you to do so. They have a lot of cute images. And that's pretty much the whole card. I went back in with my white gel pen and added some highlights to like the little buttons on the I guess they'd be snaps on the straps. And then, to the little metal parts. But I mean, that's basically it. It was a pretty simple card this time around. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.